Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 16th of June, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar, but we see a sea of green here versus yesterday's sea of red. So markets are really seesawing, and what's driving these rises at the moment is the Federal Reserve pumping liquidity into the system. That's what's been the change of sentiment overnight. So we'll watch with interest. But we're seeing the dollar still holding its bullish trend short term, but did fall away yesterday off the back of that. So we're seeing dollar weakness and euro strength creeping back in. So it'll be interesting to just watch to see whether we can break through to that trend. But we are seeing what's looking like a change to euro strength, dollar weakness. Looking at the yen against the dollar, we're seeing 107 fairly flat here, and sterling we're seeing here is at 126 this morning, so that dollar weakness still holding through. Against the euro, sterling sitting at 111.48, so pretty flat here as well, as we might expect, and against the Swiss franc, sterling is just below the 120 level. Bitcoin sitting at $9,500 roughly, and so we've just really struggled to get through that $10,000 mark, but we are back into short-term bullish here. US stocks recovered very sharply mid-session yesterday. They started down 2%, ended up just under 1%, so we saw almost a 3% reversal intraday, so very strong showing there. But of course, we can't put last week's big candle behind us yet, so we're likely to see volatility this week. We saw the NatGas also recovering quite strongly yesterday, and of course the Dow was up almost 0.2%. So be interesting to see how we open today. We're seeing the S&P futures up 1% and the Nasdaq futures up 1%. So it does suggest a stronger showing today in the market. We're seeing the FTSE future up 2.5%, FTSE up 2.2%. And mid caps in the UK up 2.5%, and the DAX in Germany up 2.4% this morning. So we are just seeing that strong recovery. Of course, Europe missed the bounce back. Europe closed when the US was down heavily, so we're seeing this bounce back occurring in Europe this morning, and the CAC Quarante up just under 2%. Tokyo was up a massive 4% overnight, completely re-rating on that dollar move, of course. On the US move, and we saw Hang Seng up 2.4%, and the Chinese market, the Shanghai Composite up 1.4%. And in India, not quite as strong a showing, 0.65% higher there, and the Aussie market bouncing nearly 4%. So we saw a really big move there, really bouncing on support on that short-term cloud. Still has a lot to do to get back to the highs that we saw earlier, but the Aussie market looking quite strong. Gold. Overnight, that is. Gold looking at 1730, still holding on to the bull trend just on the short term. We are in a little bit of a range here between 1700 and 1764, but we are just seeing that the long-term trend is still very bullish, and of course we have got these upside targets. Silver is slightly lower this morning, not looking as good as gold, short-term bearish there. US 10-year yield sitting at 0.74%, so they jumped a little bit yesterday on the Fed comments. We are just seeing them coming off the bottom, but we are seeing this range again here on yields just in this around this area. And if we look at German bonds, they looking still pretty strong on all three time frames. Apple is pushing higher again last night. They've recovered quite strongly in the session. Amazon also doing much the same, just holding on to its bull trend there. Google not looking quite as good as Amazon and Apple, and if we look at Microsoft, they had a bit of recovery as well. Remembering those three stocks are a third of the Nasdaq. Looking at the energy mix, we are back above $40 on crude this morning, so that is looking pretty bullish. Short-term targets have been met, so there's nothing more to the upside. We do have these targets on the 60-minute chart of $41 and $42, so we could go another 2 to 5% higher. But the interesting thing, of course, is we've got this level that we saw in the middle of June back to about $43. That's going to be the level to break, and there was actually a little bit of resistance there even at $42. Looking at WTI, we're just below $38, but we're also heading into a bit better territory here as well. And US NatGas not benefiting as much, just in the doldrums. We've been bearish on NatGas this week. Targets to the low 160s is where we've been looking. Coal looking quite strong this morning at 54.70, and emissions up a massive 3%, so they've really jumped this morning. And if we look at MBP, sitting flat this morning, but looking really much better on the chart. Our most bullish calls this week. And TTF sitting at 540, up nearly 1%, but of course the €6 mark is what we need to see as the break, but we could well be coming off the bottom here. Looking at German power, last of all, we're seeing here we've got 2% rise there to 38.50, looking better there this morning. All this happening on the global sentiment just improving, so one to watch. Keep an eye on those 1 minute charts, and the futures are really probably our best guide at the moment. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.